Hey, everybody who is joined already. Thanks for hopping on today's Savvy session. We'll be getting started shortly once we hit top of the hour. But if you're here, go ahead and drop your location into the chat and where you're at, and then also maybe where you're investing at. That would be awesome to know too. Hey, Curtis from Branson. Thanks for popping on. Are you invested in Branson or do you own there? Or sorry, or do you live there? Ask the same questions. Looks like Leanne is in Kansas City, but owns in the Smokies, always open to new areas. Well, that is definitely my team specialty is new areas. So yeah, let us know. Hey, Mike. Looks like Mike is in Ohio. Looks like Curtis is about 45 minutes from Springfield. Gotcha. But I have two STRs in Branson. Awesome. We love Branson. I actually was right around this time last year was in Branson, getting to explore with our Branson team and had a great time. Went and did the golf cart tour over at the Bass Pro place. Went out in Table Rock Lake, jumped off some rocks. It was a good time. It looks like Maria is investing kind of all over. It looks like LTR and short TR, Philly, Indy, New Jersey, Florida. Super curious to hear where you're at in Florida, Maria. It's awesome you're in Indy. We also really like that market too. For everyone who's joining, thanks so much for joining today's Savvy session. Looks like Michael's got his hand raised. Do you have a question, Michael? Or just saying hi? Looks like hi. That sounds great. But yeah, thanks for hopping on. We're going to be talking about AirDNA and how to best use that for research. Also using Airbnb as a tool. So down in the chat, if you're here, go ahead and drop, where you are from and also where you invest at. And we'll kind of also be happy to answer any questions throughout the session. So go ahead and drop those there, and we'll get started here in just a little bit. Looks like we're right over the top of the hour, so I'll give it another minute or two. I know sometimes with Zoom, you got to click on the link and then it links you out somewhere else. Then your Zoom's got to start up. So we'll give it one more minute and get rocking and rolling on AirDNA as a tool. All right. Awesome. And let me just make sure I have the chat up. Okay, awesome. Perfect. Again, thanks for hopping on. My name's Scott. I am with Savvy as our Director of Client Success. We're going to be hopping on in just a second. Give it probably 20 more seconds and then we get rock and rolling. But we're going to be talking about AirDNA, how to kind of use it on the next level. So giving you a lot of kind of inside tips on how we at Savvy like to use AirDNA. So let's go ahead and hop into that. Let me go ahead and cut off this music. Oh, I should have done a fade. No worries. All right. So, like I said, my name is Scott. I am our Director of Client Success over at Savvy. My team, the Client Success team, is kind of the team responsible for knowing about all of the markets across the country. And knowing what is working there for STRs, what's not, helping get you connected to all the realtors and all the resources that you need. And so my team's always happy to help. If you ever need to reach out, my email is just scott@savvy.realty. In terms of where we are right now, just a quick meet the team. We are kind of all over the country. We're a national realty team, if you don't already know. And right now we are in 20 markets ourselves. And then we have partner agents that are in probably another 25 markets. So wherever you are across the country, um, we can definitely help you out there. So yeah, and in terms of today, what we're going to be looking at is how to use AirDNA and Airbnb as research tools. So there's a couple of different things that I like to do with both of these tools. One of those is to explore markets. There are some pretty cool ways that we can check into markets. Both AirDNA going to get both. AirDNA is going to give you the numbers, Airbnb is going to give you the guest perspective, and understanding the market definitely needs to start with both of those things. We can also use it to predict revenue. I know some people love to click around Airbnb calendars. Other people love to use AirDNA. We use kind of a hybrid approach of both of those. There's also other amazing tools for predicting revenue. Big fans of those, but given that AirDNA is the most popular, we're going to get started with that one, and that'll be our focus today. Then also we can use both of these tools to find the inventory. And AirDNA has been working on some new things. Savvy is actually the exclusive partner with AirDNA across the whole country for handling any type of clients who are interested in the Airbnbs through AirDNA. So we get connected with them, we chat with them super regularly, and they've been launching new tools. And one of their new tools has made it possible and helpful to start finding inventory. So yeah, let's go ahead and dive in. And just as a mention, if you ever have any questions while I'm going throughout the presentation, feel free to pop them in the chat. I'll see if I can handle them. And if not, we'll save them towards the end for a little Q&A session. So we'll go ahead and dive in there. So what I like to do when I am getting started with researching a market is to use Airbnb first. One of the number one reasons is that it puts you in your guest's shoes. I think it's super important to kind of get the market that you're looking at from a guest perspective. It definitely helps you understand what's going on there a little bit better. It helps you, understand when a guest, goes and clicks on, for example, if you want to come to Asheville, it's unlikely you'll be staying in Asheville proper. You'll probably be staying in another town like Candler or Alexander, but you as a guest don't know that if you're coming to visit. And so that'll definitely help you there. And one of the things to do whenever you are using Airbnb is to use incognito mode, just because if you are an STR host, or just involved in short-term rentals, your AirDNA browsing history will be greatly influenced by what you've looked up in the past. So go ahead and open up an incognito browser to do any of your Airbnb research. So if you're on a Mac, it's just Command Shift in, open up an incognito browser for you, and then what you can do is go ahead and log into Airbnb. So it's one of the reasons that it's helpful to log into Airbnb is that they are specifically geared towards clients. And so, like, let's just say you want to go to the Poconos or Red River Gorge or Catskills. There are places around those areas that do have that name, but Airbnb, since it's geared towards clients, is actually going to adjust for that for you. And it's not just going to show you Catskill, New York, but the area that is considered the Catskills. And so it's definitely helpful for sometimes helping you even find what is your market in AirDNA. So do is put in a market. Let me go ahead and do Catskills. I'm just gonna go ahead and do Catskills, New York, hit search, not and enter any dates or any guest info. I just want to see what Airbnb is going to show me right off the top. Okay, cool. Sorry, let me go back into that Catskills search. Okay. Awesome, cool. This is what I was looking for. Perfect. So when you type in Catskills, what you'll see here on the map is you'll see a spread of properties, and then you'll see here a lot of the top properties. And so right off the bat, one of the things I like to do on the map is look for clusters. So if you look here, you see there's a lot of things clustered out here. For some reason, there's an outlier there, and that'll help give you some of the towns to start looking in terms of like actual addresses for real estate. So if you're looking here, you can kind of see that Woodstock, New York is one of the towns. There is the town of Catskill, but stuff is kind of populated through here, and so that's a good thing to note. The other thing to note is to check out some of the top properties and what's going on there. So if we scroll through here, we definitely get a lot of typical mountain town vibes. Everyone knows A-frames are super popular right off the bat. We've got one, two, three A-frames. Um, some weird little tree houses. There was another one up there, another A-frame, some hot tubs. Everything's really nature oriented. And so this is just telling you right off the bat what kind of properties guests are enjoying and looking at. And then the one thing I like to do is to go ahead and also look at the outliers. So if we're looking on this map, the two that stand out are this one way over here and this one way over here, especially this one. It's not by anything else. And so I'm curious if we look at this one, what is this property doing that is putting it so high up in the algorithm for Catskills? And so that is something I would definitely want to look at. So let me open it up in a new tab. Um, we'll see here it's a four guests, two bedrooms. It's just a little cabin. Um, Really, it is not even, I mean, it definitely has some cute vibes. The washer and dryer right up front kind of threw me. But it looks very cabiny, like very homey, like maybe it's like someone's weekend thing. Like that's the vibe it gets. I imagine it's a full-time STR. Um, and it is yeah, it's definitely very A-framey, very mountainy. It looks here that it is featured in a couple of places. So if it looks like maybe part of its popularity could be from being featured elsewhere. But one of the things that I would love to do is just explore what's going on here. And sometimes that gives you some insight into the market and into what properties are doing super well. So and why, and like specifically what amenities can you grab? So looking and analyzing outliers is a big part of the equation. And so here we've got this other one, hot tub by the river. That definitely makes sense why it is so attractive. Inside it is pretty cool. Nothing crazy so far. Definitely just really, big cabin vibes. But we can see here that, looks like this hot tub by the river is really doing a lot of the selling. There's probably a stream or a creek, depending where you're at. Um, oh, cool. They've got a heron there. Um, so it looks like a lot of the focus here is on the nature. So, maybe if what I would say just from looking at this area, and we don't have an agent in Catskills, so it's not an area I'm super familiar with, which is why I wanted to choose it. But one of the things you can see here is that if you can be on a water feature, that could be something that could really be helpful for helping you stand out among the competition. And then from here, you can keep filtering. You can go to page number 2, see what's going to stand out there. We've got an even bigger spread. So you're kind of seeing there's a lot of diversity in terms of where you can be, looks like to be successful if these are the main ones popping up on Airbnb's homepage. You can see some more little clustering over here, definitely some clustering there. And so those all might be areas that you'd want to explore. If you want to filter it some more, you could kind of look at filtering it by guest. I know that when we're looking at AirDNA and when we're actually buying houses, we're filtering by bedroom counts. So let me go ahead and do that. So let's just look at 5+ bedrooms and see what's happening there. So we do see a bit more clusters. Looks like maybe some of the bigger ones are focused maybe closer to some towns where some of the ones more remote or some of the smaller ones. But definitely can give you good ideas there on what is working by exploring them. Okay, so that is Airbnb and the incognito test. And one of the other things that this will help you do is help you get specific towns to look up if you are trying to use your realty platform to do that. So if we open If we open these tabs, we can see that this one is in Grahamsville, New York. So we can look up Grahamsville. This is in Lanesville. This one's in Athens. And so, maybe you could even use that as an anchor for the area when if you're using a map view for finding real estate. Okay, so let's see. Cool. So yeah, this is kind of the five-step process I like to do that. Incognito mode, look for clusters, analyze outliers, and get specific town names. So when it goes into actually using AirDNA to predict revenue, there's a couple of different things you want to do. I'll cover the steps here and then start sharing my screen. But first thing we want to do is clean up the data. It's super important to know that we can trust the data. And there's a couple of filters that we can use to really show you good data. Then we want to explore by bedroom count. That's going to be the main way we can filter stuff on AirDNA. We're going to sort by revenue, look for bands of revenue, and then we're going to find good after houses. And so what I mean by after is when you're on the market looking, you're looking for a before, and you're trying to compare it to what it could be after you're done working on it. So another just way of saying comparable properties. But I love to think about it as a before and after, and it really reminds you that you need to put in that effort to do, make things top properties and amenities and all that. So let me go here. And so one of the things just to mention, like if you were to go in AirDNA and type in Catskills, it does not have anything there. So it's not a market. It looks like Catskill is a submarket. And it looks like it is a submarket in Lower Hudson Valley. So let me pull that up. And AirDNA has definitely been expanding what their submarkets look like and what they're named to make them easier to find. Like I looked earlier, and Red River Gorge is now called Red River Gorge, for example. But here, what we do see from the overview is that we have all the stats and the numbers, 16,000 STRs, 74 for sale, which is definitely an interesting number. And you can see here that they're all over the map. And this is part of why I like to bring up Airbnb to look for clusters, because this is unhelpful for us knowing where our successful Airbnbs located on the map. Because right here we just have a huge spread of them, and we can't sort by revenue on this map, unfortunately. And so one of the things I like to do with AirDNA, one of the first steps is to start searching by bedroom count. So that's one of the most helpful things. And hopefully if you are looking in an area, you've been talking with an expert realtor like our team at Savvy, or a coach who is helping you figure out, what is going on there. And they've given you some ideas of a property avatar to look for. And so once we clean up the data, we're going to go ahead and dive into specific bedroom counts. So what I'm going to do here to clean up the data, let's go into performance. There are the data is to look at ratings. So do like a 4.7 and higher, just to give you all superhost, since all of the folks listening to this and all of our clients are typically people who are going to be operating on a superhost level. And then go ahead and get rid of anything without at least 50 reviews. If it hasn't been online long enough, then the information that it's predicting isn't going to be accurate. And really, it takes anywhere from about 7 to 12 months for AirDNA's data to be correct. So if you see something has 50 reviews or more, you can generally trust that information. And if you're in a market that is a little bit more sparse, it looks like Lower Hudson Valley is not one of those, but sometimes you might need to expand it to 20 and just use your best judgment there when looking at them. But what we're going to do is go ahead and clean up that data. And we went from 16,000 listings to 5.7 thousand listings, which is still a good chunk. And so we know that this is data that we can trust, and that's going to look good. And so the next step is to go in and filter this data further by bedroom count. So I know that if we're looking here and exploring this main page, we go here and look at the size of listings. We see that 5+ bedrooms and 4 bedrooms are, or 5+ bedrooms are 9% of the market. And so typically that's why we see a lot of potential across a bunch of the markets across the country for bigger houses, is because there's less competition, there's less availability. And so it's easy to move in and kind of dominate that space. So let's go ahead and for this purpose, look at that big avatar of multifamily stays. and pull that up. So we're on the performance one. Let's move over to listings, and then we're gonna go over here to bedroom count. So we're gonna do 5+. I like to leave everything else the same. Sometimes when you start messing with guest counts, bathrooms, it just gets things to be a little bit wonky. Um, and we can go ahead and hit apply. And so in terms of 5+ bedroom listings, we have 504 listings. It looks like the numbers for those are pretty decent, going up 4% year over year. And you can see that all of this data will change as you apply your filter. So here we've got 5 bedrooms. It's showing it's 100% because we filtered it like that. So these filters do change in case you're ever wondering based on what you are filtering out here. So the next step we're going to do is go in here and sort by revenue. AirDNA's default nowadays is to sort by revenue, but you can also sort by daily rate, occupancy, review count, and there's different reasons to use each of these. In terms of predicting revenue, though, let's sort by revenue. And so what we want to do here is we want to look for bands of revenue. What you'll see is that there are property bands where you'll see like 5 or 6 properties that are all making the same amount of money. And that's what, that is something that we can use as a good predictor of the ability of doing that again. So when we're looking at here, we've got 640 as the top. No other ones are doing 640, 420, 420, 370. No big band that I'm seeing of repeated numbers. Until we get here to 270, it looks like we've got 3 properties there, 270, that's almost 270 over 260, 260, 260, 260, 260, 250. So it looks like you're seeing time and time again that that amount of money can be made on these big 5+ bedrooms. And so what we want to do from here is to find houses that are going to match with the principal house that we're looking at. So if you're looking for a house that doesn't have a pool, you definitely wouldn't want to use a pool as a comparable property. And if you're looking for, certain bedroom counts, we might want to filter down from there. You can see this one's a treehouse kind of deal. So maybe we're looking at something treehousey. This one could be a good comparable. Then again, a bunch of these have pools. So if yours does have a pool, there's probably some good pool comps around here. But what you want to do is just look at the style of these houses, look at the amenities, the properties. Are they something that the house you're looking at has? And if so, we want to be able to find at least 2 or 3 properties. If you're working with a savvy agent, you know that this is something that we do for you whenever we are pitching any properties, is we go ahead and pull comps for you to show them to you. But if you're working with an agent somewhere that isn't a savvy agent, make sure you're asking for that, asking for 2 or 3 different comparables to prove that the house you're looking at, once you turn it into the after, you take it from before to after, that it's going to be able to do those numbers. And so you can dive into these a lot more. Like this is kind of a farmhouse, 6 bedrooms, plainer than a lot of the other ones. And how is it doing that? And it looks like part of it is just that it's the size available, and it looks modern while taking care of clean, but no crazy pops of amenities. So that would even let us know like we could do better in this, I think. The outdoor is pretty plain. It does have a hot tub, which is kind of a necessity in most markets, a little workout area, but lots of room for improvement. So let's say you're looking at another big, what is that, arts and crafts house, 6 bedrooms, then you can compare it to this one and have a good idea of what type of revenue you could do. And so that is a little bit on predicting revenue. So what you want to do is look at comps. Let me go ahead and just do one more super fast. I'm going to be a little quicker on this. But let's look at those like 1 to 2 bedroom places. Because when we were first looking at Hudson Valley, it was showing us a bunch of those. It's like 2 bedrooms. Okay, 2 bedrooms. Cool. And so here we're going to do that same thing. We're going to look for bands of revenue. So we see 150, 140, 140, 140, 135, 140. 120. So if you want to pick like a conservative number, maybe 120 would be 125 would be a decent number to pick. And just, once again, you're going to find comparable. So if you're looking at an A-frame, this might be a good one to compare it to. How well is it doing? What amenities does it have? And then can you beat that are the questions to be looking at there. Yeah. And so in terms of helping using these tools to find properties and find inventory, there's a couple of steps I like to do. So one, let me show you how the map works on AirDNA because I really like how it positions itself to show you both the houses you're a gross ROI calculator or just computation to figure out what to filter our for sale data by. Then we can explore listings. And of course, last is you need to find yourself a realtor who knows short-term rentals. So you can dive into that. So let's go back here to the Catskills. I want to go back here to instead of the one to two, I want to go back to 5+ bedrooms just to see since we were already there. And I'm pretty sure we had that revenue band picked out at 270. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and use that as a number, or yeah, 270, 260. I'll use 260, be a little bit more conservative. And you can run these numbers however you best see fit. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 260,000 and let's divide it by the gross ROI percentage you want to hit. And that's going to give us the top purchase price that would work in that market. So if I take 260,000 and let's just say I'm going to divide it by 20%, so zero point 0.2 for 20% gross ROI, how much that property can make in 1 year as a percentage of purchase price. That's going to give us the top purchase price of 1.3 million. Before I do that though, let me show you this map because I really like the way AirDNA has this map set up. So one, you'll notice that these are the houses on AirDNA that have that are 5 bedrooms, that have the number of reviews we're looking for, also have that 4.6, let me change 4.7 even score because you can see it adjust itself in real time. And so these are the properties we're already looking at. So we already know these are top performers. And even there we can kind of see clusters, which is helpful when we get into that property level or bedroom count detail. But the cool thing about this map is that if you click the for sale one and toggle it on, you can see properties that are for sale. And there's not a lot for sale in the area based on what it is pulling in from the MLS. But what we can do is further refine it from here. But I do love that you can see them both at the same time. And so the for sale ones, let's go to 74 houses for sale. If you go in here to for sale, oh, that's why I already had a filter set. Okay, so there's a lot more to 74. But if you go in here, you can see all the properties for sale. And here's where all those top performer listings are if we turn on that. And so what we want to do from here is filter it down. So we did the $260,000 revenue band, divided it by 0.2. That gave us a top sales price of 1.3 million. So go ahead in here and in the top price point, go ahead and put in 1.3 million. And then we also want to do bedroom count. So in terms of bedrooms, we're going to start at 5 and go higher. And so when we do that, we see that there are 180 properties for sale that go up to 1.5 million. And that have 5+ better bathrooms. And so if any of these, are looking like some of the top performers in terms of bones, this one immediately off the bat looks kind of interesting. Big porch that you could do. It's already got a cool pergola. That could be a good fit. 7 bedrooms is great. We could go ahead and we could go back to our listings tab and refine by 7 bedrooms if you wanted to get a better idea of what 7 bedrooms can do specifically. This property looks like it could be a good fit, very mountainy vibes. And so you can do it that way. A lot of these you can tell right off the bat might not be a good fit for you. But you can just explore properties on Airbnb's tab. You also, if you're finding that you have way too many, you can set a minimum, like you don't want anything under, 100 and or under 600,000 because those are going to need too much work and you don't have time for that. Here's another one, 5 bedroom for 1 million with a pool. A lot of those top performers we saw had pools, and so this one could be worth exploring as well. And then if you also wanted to do it on a map, I don't think that Catskills is probably an area that is needed as much on a map, but beach areas definitely are because sometimes how far you are off the street is a big, or off the beach is a big deal. And so you can really zoom in on the maps for beach areas and see that. But even here, you can kind of get some ideas. So let me see. We have a big cluster right here in Liberty of top properties. And it looks like there is something for sale in that area because we see that blue one. The map is going a little bit low, but this is how I would, want to use it. So yeah, there's a good chunk of properties here. This one is for sale. Um, Hopefully it'll load and show me what's going on. It does say no STRs. I am not sure exactly how AirDNA uses that filter, so check with your realtor. Um, but it looks like it's a cluster of cabins. Interesting. Yeah, so this is probably not a good fit, but it is a fun way to use the map. Um, Perfect. So that's a little bit of how to use these tools to kind of explore your market and find inventory. And like I said, if you're looking for a STR specific realtor, that's definitely something that we can help with. Like I said, we're in 20 markets ourselves, have partnered agents that we've vetted and know are, good and great at STRs and have their own investments in another 25 markets. So yeah, let me turn it over to you guys for questions. Does anyone have any questions? If so, go ahead and drop them in the chat. You also might be able to raise your hand if that's a thing, and ask them. But yeah, go ahead and drop them in the chat. If you're looking for a short-term rental and you're wanting to chat with our client success team and see, what market might be a good fit for you, you can definitely drop that in the chat as well. And then we'll make a list of those folks and reach out to you guys. But yeah, any questions on AirDNA, using Airbnb, go ahead and drop them now. And if no questions, totally fine. Super appreciate you all being here. I'll stay on for a couple of minutes. Appreciate the compliment. Chris said it was a great presentation, so thanks for the affirmation. I'll stay on a few minutes after to answer questions if you're wanting to do that. And if you want to scan this QR code, this will go to my client success team's calendar to chat with us about markets. Let me see, we do have a couple questions here. So Amy said, how many people can log into an AirDNA account at the same time? Can I share a login with my spouse? You can definitely share a login with your spouse. I'm not sure what the limit of logins is. Sometimes I think we've had issues in the past sharing accounts where it's kicked us out, but lately we have not had that issue as much. So I can't speak to that specifically, not being an AirDNA employee, but I think you and your spouse could definitely have a login together. Let's see. Brian said if you put in a specific address into the Airbnb or VBR symbols, won't show up. Is that indicating the data isn't pulling from them? Okay, great question. So what you are talking about, Brian, is the rentalizer function. So let me go ahead and I can never think of any property addresses ever because we go through so many of them. But let me let me find any property at all. And let me even do this with, I'll show you with an existing property that we know is Airbnb because it's one of the ones we've sold. So let me do this. Um, 84 Climbing Astor. Okay, cool. So 84 Climbing Astor Way. Asheville. Okay, so we're gonna put that in, and what this is called is Rentalizer. And it is AirDNA's predictive algorithm to help you figure out how much the house might make. One thing about Rentalizer is you do need to make sure that it is, well, I guess the first thing about Rentalizer is we don't suggest using it. Go ahead and, find comparables the way that we're doing it. Part of the reason I say we don't suggest using it is Rentalizer is pulling everything from the 50th percentile down below property can do price wise. And most of the people we work with are not content with being average hosts. And so, we want to make sure that we're not doing that. And so one thing to do here, let me update the bedrooms though, just in case we wanted to see. This one's a four bedrooms and it can sleep up to 8 guests. So we'll update that. Um, and it says it is doing 100 and its prediction is 102,000. It's only been launched a little over 6 months and has already done 91,000 in the last 195 days. So we know that this number is definitely wrong because, give it another 5 months, it'll probably be up to 160. Also, we're heading into our peak season in Asheville, which is leaf season in October. So I'm guessing it might even hit 180. But your question was about the symbol. This doesn't show a symbol because it's not pulling a specific AirDNA Airbnb listing. It is using an algorithm to predict based on properties around it where they are. And also just to kind of show y'all, if you go to savvy.realty backslash recent, you can see a lot of our case studies. And so this is this house, 84 Climbing Astor Way. And we update these regularly to kind of show you how the AirDNA data is coming in. So this house was bought in September and then probably launched in October or November. And so you can see here it's been available 164 days in May, and this is what AirDNA was showing. Then in June, it's been available 195, and so it's up to 92. And so this is the same address that we had typed in here to the Rentalizer. And so anyways, all that to say, it's a predictive algorithm function, and that's why there's no Airbnb or vBureau link there. Cool. Let's see. Move on to Larissa. On AirDNA, looking at properties for sale, do you know if the daily rate is an estimate or actual? That would definitely be an estimate as well. Yeah, Airbnb, AirDNA's everything that it's predicting are estimates. And my advice is to instead of trying to use these numbers, the algorithm numbers, I would try to find a property and do that same thing where you're looking for a comparable to predict that revenue. And even if you want to move below a more conservative band, you can go down to, go down here like further. I know we were looking at 240, I think, or 250, 260. Here's a bunch in 190, but I would try to find a comparable property instead of checking out what these numbers are, because these are all just, like I said, a predictive algorithm. One of the things I do like, we do have another partner, STR and they'll actually give 75th, 90th. So that way you know that if you're trying to perform on those levels, those are the numbers you're going to hit. All right, on to Monique's question. Do you recommend buying the whole package? It looks like one package costs 400 versus monthly. And I think you're talking about AirDNA subscriptions, Monique. I would have to check in with the Airbnb AirDNA folks. I know that the account that we have, let me pull it up. Subscription. I have the pro account, and that is plenty enough to do everything that we are doing. There's one beyond this that is a bit more expensive, and you definitely don't need that as a normal investor. That's more for people who are running property management companies. So the pro level should be good. Let me see if I click this, what happens? Research. Let me see, custom comps, filters. Okay, cool. This is the current plan I'm on. I guess the research one. I guess they have different names for them. But this is one that works great. So yeah, the build annually 400. That one should be able to get you all of the info that you need. Let's see, a couple more questions. TJ, said that he signed up for AirDNA Pro, but still doesn't have access to it. TJ, if you shoot me an email at scott@savvy.realty. I don't work for AirDNA, so I can't help specifically, but I can go ahead and try to reach out to the couple of the contacts that I have. Can we find any comps on LTRs on AirDNA? AirDNA specifically is looking for STRs on Airbnb and VBRO. So if you're trying to look for LTRs, they'd need a filter for how long the stays are. So I don't think it would work very well for that, but that's a great question, Alina. Chris said on AirDNA where the for sale listings are, we saw existing Airbnb properties for sale, or was it showing any and all properties for sale in the area? So Chris, the great question. On the 180 for sale properties, these are not Airbnb listings, and they don't really have a great way of knowing how to figure that out. In terms of locations, like these purple dots, these are all estimates. Pulling up the exact address is pretty challenging and pretty expensive to do from a data perspective. And so AirDNA doesn't necessarily have all of the addresses. And so they can't necessarily compare them against the addresses here in the listing to tell you if this is an existing STR. If it is, you might be able to tell from the pictures, and also whatever realtor you're working with might be able to tell you. Yeah, looks like Monique was asking again about the pro account. It looks like it is 400 annually. And let me see what it was going to be monthly. So it says 400 annually, 34 a month. So looks like it is on sale potentially. Let's see, TJ, are the properties for sale at AirDNA or listed at competitive market, or are they more inflated for STR? So AirDNA is actually just pulling in MLSs. So any of these properties here, you can also go to Zillow and find them. But running them through AirDNA, you're able to apply filters to be able to find them yourself there. And so, yeah, I don't think they're necessarily inflated. But that is one thing that when you are looking to sell your property, that you're working with a realtor who knows STRs, because there's definitely a certain level of premium that people, do and pay if it is a profitable, highly booked, highly occupied Airbnb. Um, cool. Any other questions? I think I hit on everyone's. If anyone is in the market, how do Rabu and AirDNA compare in terms of accuracy? So that's a great question. One of the things I like to do, and I recommend this to everyone, one thing is just to clean up your data. So trying to have properties that have certain reviews is going to help you, see properties that are operating at superhost level, which you're going to be doing. Also, doing review counts is the other biggest part of it. And often, what you'll find is they'll be once they have those higher review counts, there is more history to go with the listing, and then you'll see AirDNA and Rabu agreeing a lot more. And so that's definitely a thing to check on, though, because if you can get two sources to agree, then you know that that's a really solid data point that you can agree on. You could also use STR IQ. There's also this plugin called Rank Breeze. It's called Air Review and Rank Breeze. And what you can do is click on a property if you have the plugin installed, and get listing data. I don't think I have mine. They updated it a while ago. I haven't used it in a little over a year. But it looks like they have a new plugin that you could browse. And so Air Review would it'll look forward into what days are booked to predict the revenue, where AirDNA and Rabu are scraping continuously, looking at calendars to try to predict past revenue. So I hope that answers that question. But yeah, STRIQ, Rabu, AirDNA, Get Chalet, RankBreeze or Air Review are all great sources to use. And if you can get several of them to agree, then you can feel really good about that data point as a comparable property. And then you know exactly what you need your Airbnb to look like, or to beat and be better than, to make that same revenue. Awesome. Any more questions? Can I get access to the recording? Missed the initial part of the presentation. Yes, I believe that everyone who is here will get a copy of the recording emailed to them. And if you haven't gotten it in a couple of days, send me an email, scott@savvy.realty, and I'll help make sure you can get that. Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. If anyone has any more questions, I got a couple more minutes. But if not, we can kind of rock and roll from here. Again, if you want to grab time with my team and chat about markets, chat about AirDNA, whatever it is that we can help you with, we try to be your source for all the resources and realtors you need. So you can reach out to us. It's savvy.realty/market match. That'll get you linked to our customer success team, and you can hop on the phone with me or someone else from my team, and we'll be able to help you there. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate everyone's affirmations and thankfulness, and it's been great to get to host this session. I'm not sure if y'all are going to be at STR WealthCon in a couple of weeks, but I know Savvy is gearing up. We're going to have a big booth there. So if you are there, go ahead and pull us aside, say hello. We'd love to get to connect in real life. If you haven't gotten a ticket, it's going to be a great time. Definitely a great conference to go to, STR WealthCon, put on by Bill Faith. So yeah, reach out and say hello if you're there. Monique said, "Where is it?" It is in Nashville. It's in Nashville, Tennessee. It is, I think, the 22nd through the 25th. Um, that's the best I can do there on top of my head. It is, let's see, today's Wednesday. So 2 Wednesdays from now, it'll be happening. It'll be its first day and it'll go 3 days. I think there's some VIP stuff on the Tuesday before, 2 Wednesdays from now. Thank you, Elena. Thank you, Preston. All right. Well, thanks again, guys. Looking forward to seeing y'all again. And if you want to check back every Wednesday at the same time, we're doing a Savvy session with more fantastic information from all of our team. Thanks, Robert. Thanks, Amy. And we're happy to dive in. Oh, Angela does say, and has another question. In the NC Mountains, how does Savvy adjust AirDNA revenue for hurricane impact? So, Angela, one of the things in terms of Asheville, we as STR realtors try really hard to make sure that we are pulling data from a number of places. AirDNA is definitely one of those places. Um, our own clients and our own properties are those places as well. We ourselves, as realtors, have several of our own investments. Oh, TJ, it is scott@savvy.realty. Lou, can you drop that in the chat for me? Thank you, Lou. But we use a variety of things. So one is our own properties. The other things are, historic data beyond 1 year. I know that Hurricane Helene definitely messed up the busiest time of year for Asheville, which is October. So we can look back on previous years there. And we can also look at, daily rates in general, in the last 4 to 6 months, that'll be a good indicator as well. But yeah, if you're wanting to talk about in Western North Carolina, definitely reach out as well. And you can grab time with Olivia and Tyler, and they can dive into that a little bit more for you. But at this point, we've sold probably over 200 houses in Asheville. And so we also have a lot of data from our own clients to be able to let you know what they're doing. Is there a way to extrapolate what the cash flow from a particular property on AirDNA? Another great question, Elena. So for that, what you want to do is you want to do a pro forma. So us as your realty team, we are always happy to do a pro forma. We have two different ones we do. One, we use a site called B&B Calc that is an online pro forma, and some of our agents prefer this one. What we do is we go in and we, start with just a basic, and B&B Calc also does predictive algorithms. So any information you see here is going to be a prediction, and what you want to do is have whatever realtor you're with, adjust it. So they're going to adjust for like expenses for the area, make sure your electric or HOA, like and obviously, hopefully not a HOA, but all that to say, they're going to make sure that's all up to date, and then also adjust the revenue predictions there to make sure that you have it good to go. Let me grab this address again. 84 Climbing Astor Way, Asheville. And like we said earlier, this property is probably going to be doing 150 to 180 for the year. It's already done in like 7 months, 90. And so it's got 4 bedrooms. There you go. Select analysis type. We're going to do a buy. And for some reason, just so you know, this button is really sneaky and it hides. But we're going to click here and do run analysis. And so this is just doing a predictive algorithm. It's not actually grabbing any information. And so it is predicting that this place could do, let me see, how many bedrooms is this? Do I have it right? Is it 3? It is 3. Okay. It's suggesting that I would do 48,000 for the year. We know that that is incorrect. So let's move that up to 75. We're going to go up to, and so you can plug in your own numbers here. Let me see, 430, 450. Try 500. Okay, 500 is probably that's probably conservative for this house, but still, let's just say this is the predicted revenue that we're going with. So what this B&B Calc online pro forma tool does is it gives you your cash on cash, it gives you cap rate, annual profit, but you do need to go in and adjust here. So it'll also show you some Airbnb comparables, but here's where you want to get everything adjusted and you want to check with your realtor to make sure you have the right numbers. So for mortgage, for example, it's showing a 20% down. Let's just say you got this house with a 10% down second home loan. You drag that to 10%, go ahead and hit save, and it is going to update that for you. Save and close. Okay, awesome. So we're back at 10%. Yep. And so you can see that it went from, I forget what cash on cash it was before, I think like 20 something, and now it's up at 46. And so you can make sure all these numbers are correct. So operating expenses, are these the right stuff for the night? Maintenance fees, management, Airbnb fees. Maybe you are going to be using a property manager or a co-host. You can drag this and it'll update the pro forma for you as well. Looks like that save button isn't doing great, but there it went. So down to 26 if we're using a property manager. But yeah, if you're looking for an estimate on what the cash flow would be, this is a great place to look. Down, if you keep going, it'll show you here, profit, down payment, equity, property appreciation. You can see here 1 year, 5 year, 10-year return on investment. There's also a tax calculator. So you can use that there. We also have our own pro forma that we like to use, call it the Savvy Hotshot pro forma. And so we have all the same information on ours, but kind of in an Excel page for those who like to do Excel. Let's see, Robert, can I email about my property on Beach, trying to figure out what the next step is? Yeah, Robert, definitely shoot me an email, scott@savvy.realty, and we'll get you taken care of. Alina, did that answer your question about an estimate for cash flow? Um, I hope it did. But yeah, B&B Calc, we love using them. As you can see, we're here. We're one of their partners as well. So definitely connect and use those guys as a tool. All right. Perfect. I always like to give it a minute after I'm done talking in case someone's typing out another question. But thanks for keeping me so busy today and chatting on this Q&A. I really appreciate that. All right. Well, thanks for hopping on, guys. We're looking forward to hopefully seeing you at the next Savvy session. Um, Oh, we do have another question. Glad I waited. Okay, Preston, if we're doing our own search, how do we know what to adjust to? It's a great question. Preston is asking about using B&B Calc. And so that's kind of part of the reason that B&B Calc exists is because it already does some adjustments based on the algorithm that it has. So if you're looking for just an adjustment in terms of expenses, just go ahead and use the expenses that it does have in here. I would adjust for mortgage though. Make sure your mortgage is the right percentage down. The other thing to adjust for is renos. It has a certain renovation number, but like 8,000, if we're looking at a property that is, so let's use this property for an example, 84 Climbing Astor Way. They did a fantastic job with this property. We can click on the listing and great murals, great furniture, pops of color, all the things that are, working really well right now for Airbnb's Lana Del Rey record. Nice. I guess if you have one record and you want to cry, Lana Del Rey is the way to go. But you can tell this has been well done. And so the renovation budget on this house to get it to this level where it is doing 133 is definitely gonna be more than 8,000. If you want to use a different number, we could use a percentage of purchase price. So we could use anywhere from 10 to 15% of purchase price. So let's just say that the renovation budget was, let's just say 76, just to be conservative. We can add that in there and adjust. So this is an adjustment I would make on your own if you're trying to figure out what to adjust without working with someone. Save and close. Cool. So we got a higher renovation budget. We can still see that we're doing 17%. And then in terms of the annual revenue numbers that you're going to adjust these based on the same stuff we covered earlier with predicting revenue using comps and finding the bands of revenue and finding a comp property that looks like yours that has the same potential, like the property that you're looking at has the same potential for. So use those numbers to do that when you're working on B&B Calc. Hope that answered that question for you, Preston. And if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to me and my team. We can see what we can do for you. But yeah, the big ones: adjust your mortgage, your renos, all of that. And then, cool, awesome. Glad that helped, Preston. All right. It seems to be my pattern of saying starting my farewells and then having another question. It's like leaving grandma's house at Thanksgiving. Not complaining at all. Love all the extra hugs from grandma and aunts and uncles. So I will hang out for just another minute, see if there's any last questions for those of you still on. So we got like 14 folks still on. Also, thanks everyone for your time. I know that you'll have busy lives and I appreciate y'all tuning in. Cool. All right. Well, I am a big fan of having music on. So let's get this fade out music going. Let me check and see if there's any last questions. All right. I don't think there's any more questions, but thanks everyone for tuning in today, and we'll see you next week, same time for the next Savvy session. All right. Bye, guys.